Okay, if you're watching this video, that means you have finished your cell review documents for this unit and have moved on to the next one, Chapter 1. We are going to really start focusing in on the actual part of this course of anatomy and physiology, getting into the body, and as you'll see how things are organized in a body, we're going to kind of follow that level of organization. Just keep in mind, though, as we go through the different systems, and I've mentioned this to you in class, this anatomy and physiology is kind of like learning in a foreign language. If you've ever taken Spanish or French or German, or if you are bilingual or trilingual, you know that sometimes that can be difficult. So just hang in there, and that's why we keep a universal translator, so we can keep track of all the words we're learning and have that to refer back to, and also why we learn root words as well, because if you know the root, you can kind of figure out what the word means. Like when I've talked in notes about cytology or hypertonic, I'll mention the roots for a reason. But this chapter, which is chapter 1 in your book, is really looking at how we label the body, how we divide it into parts. It's important that no matter where you are in the country, doctors and scientists will know that what the anatomical position actually is. And what the sagittal plane is referring to. So these are just general directional terms and things that all scientists and medical doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals should know. So let's go ahead and dig into it. So this first section, 1.1, how is the body organized? Well, first off, we need to say, well, what's the difference between anatomy and physiology? The root word TOM means to cut or to dissect. So anatomy is when you're actually looking at, if you take the parts apart, it's looking at the structure. So what is the structure of the brain? What are the bones in your body? You're looking at what the structures are. And there are different kinds of ways that you can look at the structure. Systemic anatomies, if you're looking at studying the body systems. Regional anatomy studies the body regions. Surface anatomy just looks at the external features of the body. And then anatomical imaging uses x-rays, ultrasounds, and MRIs to look at structures. If you've ever been injured, sometimes you get an MRI to see what part of your structure is affected, because we can't see inside the body with our eyes. Or an x-ray. If you've broken a bone, they'll take an x-ray to kind of see what's going on there. Ultrasound, it may be an injury inside you, or it may be and when you're pregnant, they'll do an ultrasound to see the structure of the body or the baby or whatever's going on in your body. So anatomy is the structure. Physiology is the function, what it does. So structure is what it is, function is what it does in your body. And so this is really the basis for understanding diseases. So when you take pathophysiology, you'll be looking at how disease, patho, that root word means disease, affects how it functions in your body. It's hard to figure out how to fix somebody if you don't know what it's doing in your body, what it's supposed to be doing in your body. So it allows an understanding of how the body works and also how it responds to stimuli. How does it change? We're people, and other animals respond to stimuli. They should. That's normal. And so how that happens is the basis of physiology, and allows us to do that if we know what's going on. Roman numeral 2 in your notes is looking at this functional organization of the human body. So we can start small and move up to large, and it's all based on the level is based on the level previous to it. So chemical is your very first level, the smallest one. We're going to be talking about chemistry as it applies to whatever body system we're talking about. So some of you have probably taken chemistry previous years to this, so we're never going to get into that much detail, but here and there we're going to mention some chemistry stuff. But the chemical level is this very smallest one. We're looking at the atoms, the smallest part of an individual that can actually be, make it an individual. Then the cell, which we've already talked about a little bit, is the basic unit of life, and that's made up of chemicals, the atoms of these chemicals that make up the cells, and it includes organelles inside the cell, which are the things that actually do the jobs. Then the next level up in complexity, or how complex something is the tissue. A tissue is a group of cells that have similar structures and functions, plus there's some extracellular substance there that gives it some characteristic. So for example, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, those are two examples. And we'll look at more of those in detail in the next chapter. But that's always, a tissue is just a group of cells that work together to perform a specific function. Then when you get a bunch of tissues working together, you get the next level called an organ. So those are two or more tissue types that perform one or more common functions. So your skin is made up of some epithelial tissue and some connective tissue. So there's two different tissues working together to do a specific thing. Your heart is made of muscle tissue and connective tissue to help it do its job. So all of the organs that we're going to be talking about have two or more tissue types that work together. And then when you have a bunch of organs working together, you get an organ system. That's the next level up in your complexity. So a group of organs that are classified as a unit because they're all trying to do the same sort of function. So your circulatory system is made up of the organ of the heart, the organs of the blood vessels, that all work together, the blood that works together to do the specific function of transporting materials. And then finally, when you have all of the systems working together for a function, then you get what's called the organism, and that's the highest level of complexity, the largest level. That's where you have all of your systems working together. So you as a person are made up of 11, 12 different systems that are working together to make you work. So that is 1.1 of this particular unit. So here's a picture. You notice now I'll start doing where the pictures all have a similar background. For this chapter I chose pink. I don't know why I just did. But this picture shows you the different complexities of the levels of complexity. So we start with the atoms. Here's the chemical level. It gets more complicated at the cellular level. It's a molecule. Molecule first, and then we get to the cell. So this is one muscle cell with different chemicals. Several of these cells together form a tissue. Then you can have the muscle tissue plus this is looking at the bladder, epithelial tissue, connective tissue, smooth muscle, which is this, and more connective tissue, all working together to make this organ work properly, the bladder. Then the bladder is one of several organs that work together, the kidneys, the ureters, the urethra, to form part of the urinary system. And then this is just one system of many to form this organism. And you can see the urinary system colored in on this child here. So now it's your turn. On the left side of this notes sheet, you're going to get this. You're going to put this page in. So be sure you get this page out of the file bin. You can pause here and fill out your blank lines with this information. So it's another kind of a doodle notes page of what we talked about in these notes. So get this glued in, and when you get done with that, you are finished with 1.1.